What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. It's been a few weeks. Hopefully, everyone is doing good. Dan, how are you doing?
Good. How are
Good, thank you. It seems as things are a little bit echoey. We were just playing with that before the stream, so I'm just curious if it's echoey in the chat or not. Maybe it is what it is this week, but we'll see how things go.
Yeah, because like both Dev and I are probably the most serious when it comes to audio. And the more serious you get, there's like a lot of weirdness that can happen with all the gremlins.
Yes, yes, there is. And I just changed to a different mixer, so it's still part of the fun. That sounds bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was worried about that. We are still figuring out why.
right. Because like I'm like gonna mute my speakers, and I don't think it makes any difference at all, does it? I still sound echoey.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, sound good.
Oh well,
Mixer fun.
I know. Should be new and fancy and good, you would think. Dun, dun, dun. He is AI. I mean, he could be. This could be a fake Than. You never know. He could have pre-programmed himself. So he's like, I don't got time for live streams. I'm gonna put on AI Than. So
Yeah,
how?
whenever I get here, it's always weird.
Yeah. Okay. Let me try one more quick thing. Off. Echo cancellation on. Noise suppression. It's using your MacBook Pro microphone. So that should be right. Mm. Than overdressed. Than is always dressed well. If he's not dressed well, it's probably a fake Than. That's pretty much what I'm going with.
It's that or other.
So, how is things on the reefing front? Anything new and exciting in your world?
So right now, I would say that there's a ton of like cool stuff going on. Like my happy place is when there's like a million projects, and right now, like we're in the middle of a whole bunch of
Yeah. Like, what's the biggest ones going on right now?
them. So one thing that I've wanted to do for like years and years and years was to do something with my greenhouse
Mm,
because a lot of those systems are about 20 something years old, and there's a lot of mistakes that we made setting all that stuff up. So it's really difficult to break those tanks down because they're full of coral.
mm.
And finally, we were able to just start piecing some stuff together there and completely redoing the floor plan.
Hmm, nice. So
That's
full
the biggest one.
full makeover.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. Do you what else you got in the works lately?
Um, Ironically, working on sound, sound paneling.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah. We recently got a like a safety grant,
Hmm.
and there was like certain machinery that we were able to buy, and it was kind of funny because I what I requested was basically a ladder.
Hmm.
But then when like the inspector came and actually looked at our facility, they said, "Well, what about a motorized?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's do that." And so I ended up with this JLG motorized lift. And since we got that, I've been hanging stuff in really high places.
Nice. That sounds useful. That probably explains your way up their sound panels.
Yeah.
I'm slightly messing with this as we go. See if I can figure out what's happening.
Yeah, keep messing with it. So what else do I have going on? We are in the process of doing a couple of different husbandry things.
Hmm.
We're playing around with more with like feeding. So like stuff like trying to feed bacteria specifically. And we found like an industrial product that is really popular in like aquaculture,
Hmm.
but not so much used in the hobby. So far that's gone well.
Have you? Has there been any noticeable differences from like using the bacteria foods and stuff that you've noticed?
See, I think so, yeah.
Hmm.
And it's kind of in line.
Oh, I think I killed your mic. Give me 1 second. I totally killed your mic. Hmm.
and it's very high in phosphate. So this is a way that we kind of balance it out and essentially like double feed all our corals. You get the bacteria feeding as well as the powder.
Yeah. Okay. So I totally cut you out for a second.
No,
So it affects nitrate, not phosphate. That was what you were saying, or what's
okay.
the big difference?
It affects nitrate a tiny bit,
Hmm.
but it affects phosphate a lot. So when we're feeding a phosphate heavy food like reefroids,
Hmm.
it kind of balances it very nicely with the bacteria.
Nice. Hmm. Is it now? You said this one's commercial. Is it
Yeah. So it's usually like fish, like shrimp, aquaculture and stuff,
okay?
that sort of
Hmm.
stuff.
Nice. I wonder now. Is it ha- between? I guess like the commercial stuff versus hobbyist level stuff that you've used. Has there been any big differences, or is it same bulk versus not
It's
bulk?
very likely similar because it's not a really marine bacteria. I mean, it's not even anything like secret. It's bacillus, which
Mm-hmm.
is widely used in aquaculture.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. This is gonna bug me until the end of the day. Do you okay? So I got there, redoing the outside greenhouse, experimenting with new bacteria-based foods.
Yes.
Has there been any other fun stuff in the works?
Um, Probably the million other things that we're forgetting. Like we've got several like empty aquariums right now that we're just holding off on
Mm-hmm.
just because we don't have like the bandwidth to work with it.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was talking to Chris Cap at when went to restock
Mm-hmm.
was talking about like Goniopora and how some of them don't seem to have like bacterial resistance. Kind of like if you add new Goniopora strains, these particular ones will struggle. So like amazeballs, for example, or glitter bomb.
Yeah.
And so people are trying like monocultures where it's and I'm thinking about setting up just a couple of aquariums just for those guys.
Oh, interesting. It, it is. I'm actually a little bit curious because with those guys, I've heard it with amaze balls or glitter. Like, I have heard those too, where other gonies for whatever reason they bite the dust. Have you
Hmm.
have you seen it with any other ones or just the two?
Unfortunately, those are like I guess like the most common ones. I've got like a green glitter, a red glitter, and amazeballs. And
Hmm.
those are literally the only three that are doing poorly in my system.
Fair enough.
All the other ones are
Yep. Now, do you? This is my own questions. Do you import gonies very often, or do you just get them from other hobbyists? Or
so when it comes to the glitter ones and the amazeballs,
Mhm.
I think those pretty much are not imported, as far as I know. Like somebody even told me that like amazeballs has only been imported like once ever, and
Oh,
all of them are from that original colony.
okay,
I
makes
don't
sense.
know how true that is, but as far as like the ones that are coming in imported, we typically stay away from them entirely.
Really? Have you just because they like don't have as good a success rate, or?
Um, yeah, there's a few really cool ones that are like yellow that we always tried and they never seem to do well.
Hmm. Then for gonies, is there any like tricks or secrets that you find makes them happier or ups the success rate with them?
Uh, for us, a couple of things.
Hmm.
I think the feeding is helping,
Yeah.
and I talked to Lou Shao from Australia,
Hmm.
and he pretty much is like, yeah, these things absolutely need to be fed, and I will take his opinion on that, seeing that he's actually breeding them and stuff.
Yep.
Um, but I think the other thing is a lot of like little random tridivores that can mess with them, and it's not necessarily that like they're getting feasted on or anything.
Hmm.
It's just that they're so sensitive that any little thing can like set them down the wrong road.
Yeah.
So lately, we've done like Interceptor,
Hmm.
and everything does better when you intercept your tank.
So the whole tank, not even just like
Oh no,
True.
it blasts the tank.
Now I know that can take out like inverts and other stuff. Has there been any other casualties
It'll
of
kill all your crustaceans if you
no?
do it right. Like if your shrimp survive, you didn't do it right.
Hmm. Fair enough. But did the
Yeah.
Gonies do well?
Oh yeah, all the corals are great,
so
but like any crustacean supposed to get.
so what about snails and stuff? Like, do you have any cleanup crew after that, or is it like nope?
So snails survive,
Okay.
urchins survive.
Okay.
Um, the majority of worms will survive. I'd say like 90 something percent of worms,
Hmm. That's not
but
bad.
like a couple of bristle worms will die.
That's not bad at all. Try one more quick thing.
Interceptor from our vet. Um, so he made a site visit, and we actually did the whole paper process to like make sure it's all legit.
Yeah.
And he got total sticker shock for how much a case of Interceptor is.
How scary was it?
It's like 3,000.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a tricky one. But I mean, if it works and saves you a fortune in coral, then it's probably worth it.
it really is.
Yep. I've been had a bit of a Gagne obsession lately, so I'm constantly on the hunt for more cool ones out there.
We recently got a very cool yellow one,
Ooh, nice.
and it's not like the tiny polyp ones that are almost like Bernardopora types.
Yep.
This is a full size, big polyped Goniopora that's yellow,
Nice.
and that's in quarantine right now.
That'll be a pretty one. You have to send me a photo of that one later.
Yeah,
Do you?
before it dies.
Yeah. Well, it's in its glory as you interceptor it and stuff. Do you pay attention to a lot of trace with Gaunies? Like I know lots of people say like manganese and some of those are very important, but do you do much with that?
Yes. So I should have mentioned that too, because like when we started to pay closer attention to trace elements,
Mhm.
stuff overall started to do a lot better.
Yeah.
Like we were completely deficient in about 8 to a dozen. When we got that fixed, it's better.
Makes sense. I've yeah, I've usually done overall pretty well for Gaunies. Like I've lost a couple that were off like freshly imported ones. So, but I think that's probably just because they're fresh. But for the most part, they seem to be do reasonably well in my systems. And I'm trying to figure out if there's like anything special that I've done with it, which I don't think there is, but I have always kind of kept up, reasonably well on trace elements.
Yeah. So do you do like regular ICP and stuff?
No, well, I used to. Now I slack at it, but I used to be pretty do one every few months. Now it's the last one was about a year gap between them, and I
Okay. So you're
tweaked it.
just kind of like
I kind of blind.
assuming that the traces are good.
Well, I blindly dose trace elements. Like I have them on a doser, so they're not deficient at
Oh,
least, right?
right.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
so I'm probably yeah. So I mean, there was after my ICP, there was some things I had a dose to boost it back up a little bit, like certain ones, but nothing was like bottom out or excessively high. So it was doing like a reasonable job of keeping things in check.
So speaking of future projects and trace,
Hmm.
one thing that we're probably going to try to do is to like make a master concoction of trace.
Hmm.
So, for example, we'll get an ICP, say, okay, we want to tweak X, Y, and Z parameters on there. We will um, make a single mix of all the different trace elements in a lot of RO.
Hmm.
So like 5 gallons or something. And since we test every month, we'll basically have the same dose on a peristaltic pump for a
Hmm.
month. I know that Chris Beckley kind of does it that way. But then again, like sometimes the stuff that he does doesn't necessarily translate to what we do.
Yep.
But one of our employees, this is what he does, and so far so good.
Hmm.
I don't know if like every trace element plays well with other trace elements like
That's what I was
plastic.
wondering about. Like when you're doing this concoction, is any gonna have any adverse reactions, or I don't know if it would cancel. I
It
don't even know what
might
it would do,
be,
but
but it could also be like a concentration thing. So when
mm,
you're mixing a couple of drops of this and that into 5 gallons of RO,
true.
it might never really interact.
Yeah, negligible amount to worry about at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then after we get the next round of ICP results, we can further tweak again,
Yeah.
and it would just save so much time with, like, daily manual thing.
Hmm. Yeah. No, automating it in my mind is key because you got to run around do it daily. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
I did it for a while and the tank looked great, but now it's just like bulk stuff on dosers to keep it for the most part afloat.
Mhm.
Um, Manganese is not a solution to all goddess. It's not, but if you're deficient in it, they're usually not as happy. That's the theory, at least.
Heard potassium as well,
Hmm.
even though it's not a trace.
That is one I was excessively dosing for a while, and I'm pretty sure the Gonies looked pretty good when I was, but it was in the borderline too high category. So now it's
Mhm.
toned way down compared to what it was at some point. But yeah, I find for the most part, as long as you're not deficient on anything, they seem to be pretty happy. I also theorize that they are happier in higher nutrient tanks because all mine are, and they seem to have always been pretty happy.
Yeah, ours are in basically an SPS tank.
Hmm.
It's connected to our all of our aquaculture systems,
Yeah.
so it's in low nutrient,
Hmm.
but, I mean, we're feeding direct,
Yeah. So
so,
that kind of balances it out at the end of
yeah.
the day, I would think. Yep. Too many
Yeah, it's funny
variables,
'cause there's
always.
so many different variables, and people kinda, like, fixate on what people are doing differently, but there could be a whole bunch of other factors.
100%. But yeah, if I had to say anything, I personally think a bit higher nutrients is they tend to be a bit happier. And again, with trace, not deficient, not out of something if you never dose it. Probably goes with most
Yeah,
corals.
and then you see somebody else's tank where, like, it's a complete laboratory sterile system, and they're doing great.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that kind of speaks to how adaptable corals can be, right? Just because they thrive in one system doesn't mean they're not going to adapt and thrive just as well in another system. That's completely the opposite, right?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes, like, it could be, like, a pest or a disease
Hmm.
thing, and when the corals are not actively dying, they're gonna be doing great.
Yeah, no, exactly. How much light are you guys giving your Goniopora? Mine are probably, I'm going to say, like 120 to 200 on average. Some a bit more, but 150 to 200 is kind of like my general happy range,
I
or
was
a
gonna
bit
say
higher.
about,
But
like, 100-ish,
what do you think?
maybe, like, 100-ish,
100
maybe
ish?
200-ish.
Yeah, most of mine are probably 100 to 150, but I know I have some that are up there like two something. But 1 to 200 is happy overall. They can handle low light and be pretty happy as well.
Yeah, like, the worst thing you can do is just burn corals.
Yep. It's funny. So many people do that too. Like it is very easy to overlight a coral, especially if you don't, if it's new, you don't know where it came from, or it's been in a box for a week shipping or whatnot. Where if you start it low, you're rarely going to kill a coral from low light, but high light definitely can.
Right. It'll take, like, months to underlight a coral to death.
Yep. It'll just probably just what slowly not be as colorful versus paling out.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really run into that issue.
It's funny when I was a new reefer back in the day, you'd like see these corals that are like super bright and vibrant, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what I want. And now looking back, I was like, yep, that would have been bleached. That would have been bleached.
Yep. Oh, it looks, like, ghostly, you can almost see through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great.
You're like, oh, that's neon highlighter yellow. You're like, oh yeah, that was green. It was just bleached. It's funny looking back at like all the new reefer things from many years ago.
Yeah, and there's entire methodologies based on, like, basically starving the corals,
Hmm.
and it's not just, like, bleaching them, but it's, like, this razor's edge of, like, barely hanging on. It's like the people that wanna keep, like, 2 centimeter tall grass,
Hmm.
like a putting green,
Yep.
and they have to do so much to barely keep that grass alive.
Yeah, it's true. It's I don't know. To me, it's not worth riding that edge, and I like darker, healthier corals overall. Um, have any of you ever had digitati hydroids, the long stringy things, and how did you rid of them? I had a sing. I haven't really. I recall seeing one hydroid ever in saltwater. Back in the freshwater days, like definitely had them. Um, but in saltwater, I had like I remember one in my first nano. I literally just sucked out the water change hose and never noticed them again. So I don't have a ton of experience with them. But my blind guess would say if you had an infestation of it, I would probably investigate something like fabenzidol that kills a lot of those like Xenia polypi type of corals. I speculate that would probably work on them, but I can't say I've tried it.
The only times that we've ever had them, they kind of went away on their own.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we ever did anything about it. They just kind of just don't survive.
that's even easier. Nothing to deal with.
The fen benders is interesting. Um, I was talking to some people about it today, actually, because
Hmm.
more people are trying to like powder it basically and feed it to like their corals and fish. Um, so I heard it kills starfish. It kills some flatworms.
Hmm.
It might kill uh, like maybe verminids and maybe like spinetid worms.
Hmm.
And if it does all that, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. I'm tempted to try benzodol because I know like there's aquine flatworms or any type of creatures, a lot of that I can kill. I also know it's going to kill my pretty rainbow clove polyps. So I haven't done it yet, but I'm tempted to. I found some from my supply shed from like a bazillion years ago. I still have some, so I'm tempted to try it one day just to see if like the tank looks better or there's any overall difference. But
Yeah. I know that it can kill some things that you don't want to kill,
yeah,
but
like clove polyps and that type of stuff are a bit of a risk for sure.
yeah, soft corals.
I think Gonnies and Newfield would be fine. I think it's just like the legit softy ones, like a clove polyp type of coral.
Yeah,
But if you have
it's
like those blue cloves that take over your tank, I mean that's could be a nice easy fix for it.
we sell them.
Hey, I have rainbow clove polyps and I think they're awesome. But you saw the little blue ones that take over.
Hmm.
Are they popular?
Kinda.
I mean, if you just want a tank that's really easy and you can't kill it, it's good.
Do you remember Rico?
I do.
So his tank way back in, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was like an SPS tank,
Hmm.
and every flat surface on the rock was those blue polyps.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
nice. Did you go to the Vegas Magna?
No.
Okay, there was a guy there, Jimmy Pop Coulson, and
Okay.
he had like the most beautiful aqua tank I've ever seen. It was what was it? Probably was it 8 feet, 6 or 8 feet long, front to back and wide, and it had every like his rock, every single acro had like every fancy named whatever colorful aqua you could think of. He had it in there, and probably multiples, and just the depth of it was jam packed. But I remember him saying, and he had those purple clove polyps, and he said too, he goes, he'd put an urchin or something on it when he says they're good because they would stop the corals from growing into each other. It's kind of like a wall. And he goes, if I want to put a new coral there, I put an urchin or something there to eat some of them and then have a new spot for a coral. I was like, it's an
Hmm.
interesting outlook.
I didn't realize that urchins would do that.
I've never seen it happening, but that's what he claimed. I don't know what type of urchin it was, but
Yeah. The only problem I have with urchins and coral is that they can like just grab them and take off running.
joyride. You need the frag racks, the little grippy things, so they can't pull them away.
I I kind of experimented with those like many years ago,
Hmm.
and the staff did not like it because it was too difficult on a day-to-day basis to pull those things out.
I can see that. Yeah, the only big advantage is you don't have to worry about snails and crabs and stuff knocking over your frags.
Mhm.
If you have a small frag tank and you need to fit a lot of stuff in a small space, that's probably your best bet because they're not going to like blow around in the flow and fall onto each other. But otherwise, good old egg crate's hard to beat for the price.
Yeah.
Yep. Didn't do anything on vermitid snails. Good to know.
Oh, fenbendazole.
Yep. Um, Clowns don't pay attention to rainbow ultra. You can't really force a clown to host something. It will just find what it likes. Like I have mine are hosting Gonies right now. Not that there's any nems in my tank, but they love playing in the Gonies, and the Gonies don't seem to care. So far so good.
Yeah, I've got one clownfish and a 240-gallon tank with all Colorado first, and it doesn't go into them.
Does it host anything or just nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty hard to do. I remember seeing back in the day people would like put pictures of like a clown and a nem on a tank or like a little iPad video or something trying to like teach them how to do it. And I don't know, mileage may vary, but
So you know what's kind of funny? I've got another tank that is about 100 and I don't know, 50-ish,
mm-hmm.
and it's jam-packed wall to wall with like Nexus burst anemones.
Mm-hmm.
And we put one clownfish in
Yeah.
there, and it hosts in one and only one.
He picked his home and he's sticking to it.
Yeah, because there's probably 500 anemones in there, and it
Yeah.
picks one.
You think that, you know, because when there are that many anemones, they kind of just merge together to a certain extent. You think he would venture out, but I guess he knows.
He barely comes out for food.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, they feed their nems, right? Once they pick it, they got to keep it healthy, protects them.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, he just likes to hang out, like, super cryptic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, like I've been getting into SPS for the last year, and so far so good. I was told some shouldn't be near certain specific SPS. Do you have a reference guide to help know what's okay with others? I don't know.
Nothing.
No, I don't think there's any specific guides. Usually the same family will coexist by each other, but at the end of the day, most corals are gonna either try and outcompete them for light or real estate or grow on them. I've had so many corals where usually they don't necessarily kill each other, but they'll start growing together and one will start growing over the other one, or there's like a little bit of death and they start building a wall up. There's certain stuff like hydrofauna and certain corals that are extra mean will kill anything near it, but majority of acros will just kind of grow into each other over time, and one
Some
will
of my
take over.
acros can really kill the heck out of each other.
Yeah. What's the meanest ones?
Good question. I don't even know. Like, every now and again, like, a few of them touch and they both die back a bunch.
Yeah. I've
Monties are fairly benign. I mean, they fight and kill each other, but it's not a big deal.
slow motion battle. Yeah. In my mind, hydrofauna was always the meanest one. That killed anything in sight.
Yeah, that one's gross.
And they had long little tentacles that would come out. And then
Yeah,
chalices. What's that one that spreads like a weed?
chalices are very
The
aggressive.
stunner one. Hollywood stunner. That thing was nasty. That thing grew way too fast and it had like 6 foot tentacles and that thing would sting anything around it.
Yeah, that one's
I'm exaggerating, but it had a few inches worth of sweepers that would come out and annihilate anything near it. It was crazy. So that's one I would not have again.
yeah. We lose a lot of chalices to just other island chalice interactions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oftentimes because like an urchin drags one right on top of another.
That's a pain. Losses to urchins. It is the funny things you think about, right? Like I have a couple urchins in my tank and it's made me glue down corals because I'm like, yeah, you just keep taking stuff away, knocking it over. Or the other bad one is when your wrasses get too big and they want to like search for pods under or something, they just
Mm,
keep flipping it.
it's interesting.
Yep.
So as far as urchins go,
Mm-hmm.
the ones I like the most are tuxedos,
Yeah.
and they don't bulldoze that badly.
Yeah.
I mean, a frag plug maybe,
I would agree.
but one time, like, a wholesaler sent us, like, the wrong urchin altogether, these
Mm-hmm.
big white ones, and these guys can grab full colonies. They have, like, n no problem carrying, like a 15 head hammer coral.
Mm-hmm.
I just race around.
Yeah. That's a good chunk.
Yeah.
Do you ever have? You probably don't really add new fish very often, but do you ever have issues with fish aggression in the tanks?
All the time.
Yeah.
In fact, like sometimes our fish decide today's the day they're going to kill each other.
Yeah.
Like that happened recently. Like we have like a 500-gallon tank, and
Hmm.
there's like 6 fish in it. And one day they decided, all the other fish decided that this one little Timothy tank had to die,
Really?
and they killed it in one day.
Damn. I a few months ago I tried putting a copper band in my office tank. Got a meeting, everything's really well. Let him out into the thing to the tank. Yellow tang just went to town on him. And now my LFS has them in again. I'm debating it. I'm like, okay, do I just build a big quarantine box and live in it for like a month, or do I sump the yellow tang for a month? I don't know. Debating what to do with the situation now.
Possibly like put the yellow tang in the activation box.
I might actually. I actually did that at first when he was being a jerk. I caught him and I put him in the acclimation box and let out the other tank, and he was great. And then after a few days, I'm like, yeah, let you out, and then he was still a jerk.
Tangs are they are the like I don't like them.
Yeah, yeah. If they weren't so hard to get, I would almost just get rid of my yellow tang. But it's that thing where it's like, it's so hard to get one again if I want one. So it's like, but
They
he's
are
kind of a
so
jerk.
mean.
The whitetail bristletooth is pretty peaceful. Really, the yellow's kind of a jerk, and then the purple can be a bit of a punk. But yellows are probably, I find, almost the meanest ones.
They're convicts.
Hmm.
They're I didn't think that they would be as mean as they are, but they're pretty mean. They always get into fights with these other fish, and
Hmm.
like they lose because they get slashed really badly.
Yep.
Um, Powder blues are like incredibly aggressive.
Hmm. They're so pretty though. I used to have one back in the day. It was awesome fish.
I think we sold one for like super cheap to one of our wholesale friends.
Yeah.
It's like I just want this thing away, and they're like, "We'll take it." I'm like,
Fun,
great.
funny enough, when I had one, it actually was fine with the other fish. Like it probably just knew it was the boss, but it wasn't overly aggressive to them. But whenever I cleaned the glass, like he would just like be racing the magnet cleaner, like, "What are you
Mhm.
doing in here?" It's funny.
I remember when I was in New York, St. Andrews Sandler's tank.
Hmm.
In that giant tank with all those other fish, there's like 2 powder blues fighting.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
They're like doing circles around each other fighting.
Crazy. Hmm.
Tangs are jerks.
They are jerks. All right, now I'm actually debating this. Big acclimation box or just sump the yellow tang for like a month?
Um, I would probably just put it in a box, but it depends on how much room you have in your tank for like acclimation box for a butterfly and then another one for a tang.
Yeah, well, I might just take a big chunk of acrylic and just do like a giant divider or something like that.
Hmm. My worry is like if you put the yellow tang into the sump and then one day pull it back, it'll get killed by something else.
What one will? The yellow tang?
The yellow. Hmm.
I think. Well, he's probably the biggest fish. I think he'd be fine. It's
Mm.
whether or not though he'd be back to territorial after a few weeks on the sump, or if he would be more peaceful.
Yeah, you can never really tell with fish. Like one new protocol that we've kind of discovered here is that if a fish jumps into the overflow box, it cannot go back in that same tank.
That's fair.
It's like it was probably trying to get away from something,
Hmm.
and when you reintroduce it, it's like both stressed and probably under attack,
Yeah,
and it never goes well.
yeah, that's fair. Well, here's the other option. I put it in my water box with like 5 other tanks. Now, is that a disaster, or will they like keep each other in line?
If I were to do anything like that, I would have to like change all the rock around and everything like that, change the lighting,
Yeah,
probably just goof everything, like reset stuff,
yeah, that's the problem.
and then they fight,
I know.
and then they kind of figure it out
Yep,
most of the time.
yep. DJ Mike, biggest thing introduced tangs all at the same time. I 100% agree with you on that one. The problem is once they have territories.
Yeah, I remember when I was introducing a chevron
Hmm.
into, like, a 600-gallon, and yeah, that was scary because I was afraid that the Achilles would kill it,
Hmm.
but the black tank that was in there was the one that actually did the most damage,
Huh.
and,
Interesting.
like, tattered fins and everything,
Yeah.
but it took about, like, 2 days to basically get it out.
That's what I found. Usually it's after a couple days and they're fine. But
First
the
couple days, it's stressful.
yeah, exactly. What I used to do too is re-put a mirror on the side of the tank because they're always the most aggressive against their own.
Mhm.
So I've done that before. Is just put a mirror on the side of the tank and like magnet it on, and then the fish just fights the glass 24/7 and basically leaves the other one alone
Uh,
until it settles.
sticker decals work also.
Yeah,
We know we've actually printed out pictures and just, like, taped them to the glass.
and it worked.
It did,
Oh,
for a little while.
that's fair. But yeah, get like a little square of mirror. That's always worked really well with tanks, at least for me. Like back in the day when I had a Power Blue and other ones, I would do that
Mhm.
whenever I had something like a new tang, and then they would just be distracted for days fighting the reflection. But I don't
Yeah,
know. Does it just make them more mad, or does it like wear them out so they leave the other one alone? But distracted them at least long enough to let the other one
that might be
settle.
good enough.
Yeah. And I'm torn what to do with this tank. Dun, dun, dun. 3D printed
3D
fish.
printed fish, that's an idea.
That is actually. Maybe I'll try that for fun. That is a good idea. We'll find a STL of a yellow tang later and print it out in yellow.
And yeah, it's basically like a punching bag.
Pretty much, eh? Poor thing will get beaten up. We'll see how filament holds up till tang scalpels. Uh, though that actually is a not bad idea. I bet you it might work. I don't know. A
I mean,
little
it's
more.
pretty flat print.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's either that or the mirror. One of the two. We'll see. I'll let you guys know what I decide. I gotta decide before I buy the copper band though, because I don't want to put him at the mercy of the yellow tang until I have a plan.
Yeah, because like, even if you get that rubber band eating prepared food and everything like that,
But
if they get harassed, they stop eating.
no, exactly, and that's the problem. Like I have no problem getting them eating. Like I've had really good success with that, but it's just the fish aggression is the problem now. Like it never used to be. This is the first time it's been an issue, but
Are you trying to, control Aptasia with it?
pretty much. And they're one of my favorite fish. Kind of 50-50.
I got a funny story.
Yeah.
The one that's in the SPS tank, so
Hmm.
it's been in there for 3, 4 years now.
Yeah.
It stopped eating Aptasia,
Huh,
like, completely stopped.
really?
There's tiny ones, there's giant Aptasia.
Hmm.
He doesn't like any of it.
Huh.
So
That's
we're gonna try, putting in different butterfly fish in there.
yeah. He's just whatever else you're feeding is just too good. It's just lower on the totem pole now.
It's so strange how, like, just mentally, they're just done with the certain things.
Yeah. I mean, I have one in my water box. I've never seen him eat an Aptasia, but there's none anywhere visible except in like some nook and cranny that he couldn't get to. So he
Mhm.
obviously is. And the other weird thing that's a bugger is I had a copper band in my prior tank before I did my upgrade, and the day before I was doing tanks, it jumped out when I had my lid on it or when I was transitioning or something.
Oh, that's crazy.
I didn't even notice he was out until I moved the tank stand. I was like, ah. Then I add another one, and he was just a jerk. So I'm like, what the heck? You were used to living with this fish for like years. What's the problem all of a sudden? But
We have one copper band that, does eat Aptasia,
mhm.
but it doesn't eat any prepared food other than clams.
Huh,
It's the
that's
only one.
funny.
Yeah.
Now, just for people listening, like my go-to trick with copper bands is getting frozen manila clams from the seafood market. And you just throw them in the freezer and just pop one in every couple of days, and it'll open up and their little beaks can get in there, and they go to town on them. And I've told a ton of people to do it, and it's worked for everybody. I've done it on a couple myself, plus like buddies and stuff, and it's always worked out well. So that's been my go-to usually to get them eating, and that usually works out very well until you can transition to something like mysis. I got an Aptasia eating
Clams?
filefish that won't eat Aptasia.
Oh, that'd be awful.
Mm.
'Cause, 'cause they're not pretty. There's,
No.
like, no redeeming quality.
Do you know those really colorful ones? Not like harlequin ones. What are they called? They're clown or it's a filefish, but they're like yellow and blue and super pretty
Mhm.
looking. Whatever they're called. Do those eat Aptasia? Of
No,
course
just
not.
Acropora.
That makes sense.
Yeah, obligate Corallivore.
Yep. Yeah, those are pretty. Too bad those weren't like a prime Aptasia eater. Harlequin filefish. That's what it is.
Yeah. Uh, so they do nip on, like, polyps,
Hmm.
but you can get them to feed pellet.
Yeah. I mean, if your tank's overgrown, you probably don't care about it anyways, so you're probably fine. But
They'll pick stuff enough that they'll never get polyp attention.
oh, really? That's the trade-off.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
that's a
trick.
no for me.
Do they only eat acros?
Uh,
Will they eat
I've
Eupholia?
never kept one, but they definitely need acros.
Will they eat gonies or torches?
Probably not.
Hmm. Let's try on my office tank.
Now, I think you have to be, like, really diligent about, like, I gotta feed it and stuff with pellets.
Yeah. I'm gonna investigate these. They're super cool fish, but yeah, I've always been worried about corals. But this is the first tank I have where I only don't have like not many acros in it. So potential. Alyssa, I created a distraction in my tank using 2 acclimation boxes. Letting my copper band is settled in. The first one is harassed by the blotchy and the tanks. So who is in the acclimation box? The aggressive fish or the new fish? Do you feed SPS? I've never have and find they're doing well growing. You don't need to feed them. Um, they tend to eat more like bacterias and stuff that you don't really see. I do broadcast feed my tank food all the time, so they probably eat little minuscule particles, but uh,
Yeah, in the past, I never really did. Like, lately, we've been doing bacteria.
mhm.
Um, in the future, we might try, like, bendazole stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, kind of extra tamp down on flatworms.
Yeah, I'm very curious to try it one day once I get motivated and remove all my rainbow clove polyps. I gotta save them because I have a bazillion and they're beautiful.
How many tanks do you have?
3 at the moment.
Okay. Softy tank maybe next?
Not really a softy. My softy tank is gonies and torches, and the other one's a mixed reef.
Oh,
And
I meant, like, where you can put the cloves.
oh yeah, I don't know where I'm gonna put them. My nano, or maybe sneak them in the corner of the goni tank. I'm not sure yet.
Or, like, start with another tiny nano
No more
just for
tanks.
softies.
No more tanks.
No more.
Three's the limit. 2 is actually my limit. I just stuck 3 in and it's stuck. The funny thing is, the original plan is I had this little nano, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try doing a goni only tank. And then somehow rock flowers and some zoas and other random stuff snuck in. So my new tank, I'm like, okay, gonies only. But then it ended up being gonies and torches.
Yeah, let's see if I can execute my Goni only idea.
Yeah, you should. I'm 9, 80% goni only, and then 1 rocket torches.
I think I'm gonna try to do, like, a baseball only,
I
just
mean,
one
we'll have nothing
single.
to fight it, so why not?
With my luck, it just won't do well. So I'll have a no coral tank.
You know, I've never done just a species only tank, and it's kind of cool to keep to. At one point, I was going to do a Meliopora only tank, but whatever reason, my Goni obsession grew, and I decided to be Gonies as the dominant one. But I don't know. It's kind of cool to just see a rainbow of like similar corals all throughout the tank.
Mhm.
Something different than like every tank I do turns into a mixed reef, so it's hard to like restrain yourself and stick to one thing, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess I've been, like, I benefit from having so many tanks that I can
Yes.
kind of do that.
Yep.
So right now, I've got 3 different tanks that are only one type of bubble tip.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
But I would like to
Cool.
do, like, one big tank that's only amazeball.
Do it.
Yeah, I think
I support this. Okay,
it'll be
reef
about 500 gallons total. It's about 240 in the glass tank
might
and then a big sump.
might take a while to grow those out though to fill that tank.
I might just, like, buy a bunch.
That's a
from
quicker
other
route.
hobbies and stuff.
Okay.
And watching people just get skin illness.
Yep. Okay. Reef feed 2. Personal experience with the maze balls is I can have it with other Aussie Gonies, but no indoor Malaysian.
Interesting.
So it could be like a region specific bacterial war or something. I don't know. Now, I wonder if that's the case. Like, if you dipped all the Gonies in some kind of bacteria killing dip, would it let them live together or would you still have that issue?
You'll still have that issue because we do.
Do you? Even after your aggressive dipping?
Yeah, we dip all the time. We proactively dip. I mean, for them to even get into our systems,
Yeah.
they've been dipped a lot.
Now,
And then on top of that, if we see anything suspicious, we're dipping again.
yeah.
But
Now, but what do you dip with though? Like, do you dip with anything antibacterial? Like,
a couple of things.
okay.
So like iodine, as well as um, I think that Reef primer,
Mm-hmm.
like potassium stuff,
Yeah.
that has antimicrobial stuff going on too.
Hmm. Could be. I know it's semi controversial, but I wonder if it was like an antibiotic, like a Cipro or something, like if it would kill off those aggressive bacteria that affect them or not.
I think the problem with that is oftentimes like bacteria isn't necessarily always like pathogenic,
Yeah.
and then in the right like circumstances, they do become pathogenic.
Yeah, that actually could make sense too.
Right. So it's not a thing where like, oh, I eliminated that problem bacteria.
Mm.
They might have been a perfectly good bacteria. But one day it's like, no, we need to kill everything around us.
You know, the water got too hot or something, something proliferated. Like, who knows what triggers it, right?
Yeah, and it's also like I think right now we're very fixated on bacteria,
Mm.
but I think there's like some recent papers and stuff where there's like dozens of different types of like fungus. And sometimes when we're fragging, we'll see like fungal colonies in the skeleton of corals, like very healthy torch corals and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, sometimes we're like, focused on one thing that might not necessarily be the full story.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Torches are
Salem
another
talked about this
interesting one,
exact thing.
which I find can
Yeah,
be subject to bacterial issues.
yeah, and I was also talking to Salem this not this past weekend, but 2 weekends ago in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
and like was specifically we were talking about ciliate
Yeah.
because that's another part of like, the microbiome that's kind of like ignored by the hobby. There's so many different interactions that just like bombing your tank with antibiotics might not solve much. Then again, it might be
Yeah. So many rabbit holes. And two, like, one tank it may be awesome change, another tank it may, do nothing useful.
hmm
It's the fun of the hobby though, right? It's always a challenge. You never know. You're always learning.
Aussie stripies. I asked somebody to source it for me, and he said that he hasn't seen them come in from wholesalers in like a long time.
So the one semi caution, at least from what I've been told, I haven't personally had them, but I talked a lot with like some people that one of the stores that were selling them and other stuff, and they tend to be great for Aptasia when they're small. When they get bigger, they can definitely start munching on corals and Euphilia.
That's cool. It's gonna go to an SPS.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? So it depends on the tank. But it's so I always have mixed reefs, so has been hesitant. But suppose they're amazing for Aptasia when they're small. They're just riskier as they get larger. So food for thought.
Yeah. My thing is the opposite. It was like it, I've got a copper band,
Yep.
and when I got older, it's not eating anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm just for fun. I think I'm gonna try breeding berghia again. They're so easy to breed, but it's hard to keep up with Aptasia.
Yeah, we're growing Berghia. Um, there's certain tanks where they don't work out for us because I think the wrasses are eating them all.
Hmm. What kind of wrasses do you have in there?
So there's probably a Melanaris,
Yep.
a Timor, six line, maybe one or two other ones.
Okay. When I
Awesome.
used to have my big fry tank in my office. I had berghia in there, and I thought they were all gone. And when I was breaking down the tank at one point, I was sort of like pulling out the frag racks and stuff, and I probably found, I think I treated the tank with like, not fluconazole. Yeah, maybe fluconazole to kill off some of them algae and other stuff. And I was like, as I'm pulling out stuff and doing all, I found probably like 60 berghia. And with wrasses in the tank, everything, I didn't think there was any, but just cracks of frag racks are just everywhere randomly. There's tons I found. So you might
That's
think you don't have any, and there really well could be a thriving colony.
Yeah, we need ours to explode again
Yeah,
because there's like a couple of our tanks. Something happened to the clubber band. Like
mm,
one had a super healthy looking one, it fell over dead, like heart attack dead.
really,
Yeah, another one. I don't know what killed it, but I think we found its jaw.
dang,
And then the other one stopped eating Aptasia.
that sucks.
So we've got like a few here and there. And if you have like an Aptasia predator and then it stops working for whatever reason, all of a sudden you have an Aptasia issue again.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Or, well, I mean, if you get the berghia breeding going, they'll eventually solve it.
Yeah,
The pro,
that's the hope.
yeah, when I was breeding them, it was going really well, but somehow one, I don't know how, but he snuck into my tank of Aptasia and just devoured them, and they were all gone.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, I don't even know how I got in. I must have like moved a rock back or something. I don't know, but goes to town. There is I filmed a video in a tank the other day, and it's a 10-foot tank, and it has no shortage of Aptasia in it. So I might acquire a few rocks out of it and give them a few new rocks and restart the berghia breeding for fun.
It's a lot more labor intensive than people think because of what it takes to like breed that many Aptasia.
Yep, that's the hard part. Keeping up with Aptasia. They're easy to breed. Keeping up with Aptasia is the challenge.
I am kind of looking forward to that wildfire infected by systems
Yeah,
because it really is like this wave like nudibranchs and all your Aptasia are gone. It's like I need that right about now.
yeah, need that explosion.
Yeah.
The only, I guess, one thing, like if you're using them to treat Aptasia in your tank, unless you spend a fortune, it's a bit of a long game because you add them, they'll eat them, they'll lay eggs, and you gotta wait for that generation to grow up and lay eggs, and then all of a sudden, a couple months later, you'll start to also know they'll all disappear. But it takes a
Right.
few months for that critical mass to happen,
Yeah.
unless you
And
add
we
like
were
hunters.
able
But
to get that effect maybe like once or twice a year.
yeah, and most people add like 10, right? So you gotta wait for that time for them to breed and lay eggs, and then those ones that grow up, and then eventually they work well. But yeah, it's definitely a slow game, but it works. I mean, I added a few of my nano, and there's no Aptasia visible in there. So big tanks take a little longer.
One thing that we're doing in the greenhouse systems is uh, when we're feeling impatient, like previously the design didn't allow us to just like fully break down systems.
Hmm.
This new design does. Like we could literally unhook an entire tank from the system and like hose it out.
Nice.
So I think like going forward, we're just going to be able to be like very aggressive when it comes to like cleaning away that sort of problem.
So basically, if a tank has an issue, you can just turn a couple valves, nuke the tank, and start fresh.
Yeah, I mean, you can wheel the entire tank out of the building
Yeah,
and then wheel it back in and reconnect it if you wanted to.
fair enough.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You're like pressure wash it, pristine.
Hmm.
Everything's gone.
Yeah.
No, that's a cool way to do it. I guess now, if you did that, would you worry about anything like reestablishing all the bacterias and stuff? You essentially nuke a system, or are
Well,
you like,
it's a tank in the system,
yeah? So it would
so
have,
you're retaining everything else.
yeah,
It's just
the tank.
those four glass walls, five glass
Okay,
walls.
so it's like a shared sump that would have like media and
Hmm.
bacteria. So it would be really irrelevant.
Yeah,
You're just basically getting a big water change at the end of the day.
right. But having said that, like you by cleaning it that aggressively,
Yeah,
you're really opening yourself up to a bit of problematic algae restart.
yeah, you will. But at least it's minimal.
But if
Get
you're having like horrific issue for some reason or another, being able to like completely remove something's nice.
Yep. No, that's a good way. The other interesting thing is too, like a year or so ago, I had Gabe on, who has like coral, not coral morphologic. What's this thing called? Coral euphoria. But he had a bunch of tanks, and they're all like in tandem, like one to the next to the next to the next. And I always found it like I think it was a shared sump or like one tank drain to the next. It was something like that. But considering it was essentially all the same water volume, it was interesting how much of a different where one tank would have an issue and one wouldn't on certain things, like
That's
how
a thing.
they're each their own biology, even though it was a shared water system, which I thought that was kind of like an interesting
That
one.
is absolutely a thing.
Yep. You would
And
think
then there's
though,
also a situation where like a Montipore eating nudibranch in this one system, in one tank, can find a way to swim through 50 feet of pipe into another tank.
yep,
But at the same time, like you could have like three tanks all hooked up together, and there might be like a green water balloon in just one tank
yep.
that
And,
could totally happen.
one tank could have tons of algae, and the other ones are pristine algae free. Like there's all
Yeah.
kinds of weirdness that can happen like that. So you never know. But yeah, that'll be a pretty cool setup on the new one.
Yeah, I'm just like trying to make stuff easier to manage
That's
long term
100%.
because again, these are like 20-year-old decisions
Mm-hmm.
and they just don't work out for us anymore. And now that we know so much better, uh, it's really refreshing just to get in there and just redo everything.
Yeah, in the longer you're in it too, right? You know what works, what doesn't. You know what would streamline it.
Hmm.
You know, and the easier it is to maintain and do stuff, the more you're actually going to do it. So,
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem that we were having is like, we had these 300-gallon Rubbermaids,
mm,
and they're full of coral.
yep,
So you can't just drain it and hose it out, like if you're having an issue, right?
has to go somewhere.
The ex- well, yeah, all those corals have to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All those, trying to catch fish and stuff, all that crazy stuff.
Yep.
So now, like the only Rubbermaids that we have are actual sumps
Mm-hmm.
that can't be drained and sprayed out.
Yeah.
But one of the problems that we were having, like when we're breaking down those tubs, some of them are covered in palytoxin.
Mm, the
That was
dusty
scary,
ones. Yeah.
super duper scary.
In there with a mask and goggles as you're like pressure washing
We
it. What'd you do
were
with those?
well, no, just to get it out of the building is scary.
Yeah.
Like when you drain the tank, everybody has masks,
Yep.
and just to like wrestle that giant tub out of the building, and then immediately like covered in chlorine powder.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Chlorine powder, eh? So
So
have they all been
that was an
banished?
idea that I got from Joe Yaulo
Yeah.
and maybe like a couple other people that had corroborated that, where it's like chlorine does a very good job of neutralizing palytoxin,
Good to know.
but it's a dry tank,
Yeah.
and so I can't just like spray it down like with bleach.
Would wait, chlorine powder works, but bleach doesn't?
Well, I need it to stay on there, not just rinse off of it. And so, like, I used an entire pool's worth
I was just
of
gonna say like
powder
pool or hot tub
just to like
blend.
cake it on there.
Huh. Good to know. Good to know.
I don't know if it completely worked. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean if you just leave it outside for a while, eventually it'll die off and everything will evaporate and there will just be
Well, I'm sure it's dead immediately
yeah, yeah.
once you put chlorine
But
on
are the
it.
toxins still there? I don't know.
Yeah, like that's the big concern, right?
Yeah. Are they all rid now? Do any still existing in your systems or are they still out there?
We still have a few more tubs to break down. I know a couple of the tubs have have polytholid.
Are they like the big classic greeny button ones or different ones?
It's like the Texas trash type
Yeah,
that like the really bad.
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, they're 20-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Those were popular back in the day.
Yeah, and it's all on the side of like a Rubbermaid.
Yep. So I can't really do much about it. Yep.
Haul it outside wearing PPE and sprinkle chlorine. And by sprinkle, I mean heavy.
Cake getting chlorine. Yeah, it's good to
Yeah,
know. Good to know that works.
we're not dead. So
So successful mission. Good work. Is there any other corals that you would worry about or be extra PPE aside from the old pallies of death?
it's not something that we've messed with in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but like the big hat and eye carpets.
Yeah.
anemones. Sometimes people have like a violent allergic reaction to those,
Huh.
like their heart.
Really? Yikes.
Yeah, it could kill you by an allergic reaction to them
Ooh, yikes.
because you know how they're super sticky,
Yeah.
and yeah, people get like loaded
Huh.
with stings whenever
Dang.
they handle those things. And yeah, some people it does not agree.
It's good to know. I mean, yeah, some people just put their hand into water, certain corals will affect them. So it depends how sensitive you are.
Hmm.
I've never had a big carp. I've only ever had the mini maxis, but way back when.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah. It would stick to my hand, but I don't ever recall having an reaction to it. Alyssa, thank you.
Elisa,
Thank you.
somebody else that I saw restock.
Yeah. How was Reef Stock, by the way?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
So I was kind of worried because I think that a lot of shows, like last year in 2024,
Mm-hmm.
they were slow, like really slow, scary slow. And so, I was kind of going there to see the people that I knew were going to be there anyway. So didn't really. It's not like I had a booth there or anything. But it turned out that it was very well attended, and it was like a new venue that they were trying out, and that venue was really nice because it
Nice.
was so convenient.
Yeah.
Like I was checking in, and right next to the check-in, you can see the elevators that go to the room. Look a little bit further, there's the breakfast bar,
Yeah.
and then you look right behind you, that's the show floor,
Nice.
and then next to the show floor is the restaurant. Like
Hmm.
everything you need is right within like eyesight.
That's handy.
So it was a very cozy
Mm.
venue, but it wasn't small,
Yeah.
and it was super, super, super convenient.
Huh. That's awesome. How far is it away from where you are?
Denver,
Yeah.
it's like a 3 hour flight.
Okay. So it's a bit of ways still.
Yeah, I mean it's a two time zones away.
Okay. That's a fair chunk. I just came back. When I was away for the last week and a half or whatever. We're on a cruise. I was laughing on the way back. We had like two different time changes from different time zone. It's like time zone, time zone. We get back that week was a time zone. So I've had three time changes in the past like week.
Yeah, sometimes it works out really well for you, and sometimes it doesn't. Like when I was flying to Restock,
Yeah.
it was great because it's like, oh, okay, I'm flying out in the afternoon, but I also arrive in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and so I was able to like enjoy like the late afternoon and evening.
Hmm.
Flying back to Ohio though, it's like you're losing 2 more hours, and so I guess show up. It's already late. No matter what time you get out of Denver, you're gonna show back up at home late.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. I usually end up going to the East Coast, which is like complete opposite from Pacific. So, I get there super late at night and takes me all day to get there. But,
Hmm.
hmm all right. I'll have to work on restock for the future list.
Restock is cool,
Yeah.
and it's not overwhelming. Like, not that any reef aquarium show is going to be that big,
Yeah.
but I've been to some really, really, really big trade shows in general,
Hmm.
where you almost need like a game plan because you
Yeah,
can't see everything.
that's true.
Like even in like 3, 4 days, you can't see everything. Like
What?
I've gone to a couple shows where there's like an entire hall I just didn't even go to. No
Yeah.
idea what's
Well, you went to some of the crazy European ones that are massively massive. Like, have you been to Interzoo or some of those that are like ridiculously big?
okay. I've not been to Intercell,
Hmm.
and I was talking to some German companies, and they were like, "We would love to host you for Interview." But the more that we talked about it, it's like, this does not sound like a good time. Like, oh, no, no, it's not the hanging out with the German companies
Yeah.
sounds dope.
Yeah.
Interzoo does not sound fun because it's like 90 something percent cat and dog.
Yeah. That's probably about
And
right.
so when you have like very, very, very like, little aquatics exposure, they don't give you a haul. They sprinkle you in wherever you fit.
Yeah.
And so like you might see like one aquatics booth, and then the next one might be a half mile away. And
Couple
you're just seeing
blocks away, you're like, oh, look, there's
cat and
another one.
dog the entire way there.
Huh.
and then you get to the next pool. That might suck.
That's fair.
Next pool, you're walking again. And all those companies that, that I wanted to see, they're busy. It's Interzoo.
Yeah.
Also, Nuremberg and every nearby city knows it's Interzoo,
Yeah.
and it's like $1,000 a day or something.
Ouch.
It's crazy.
Ouch. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
nuts.
no, people were saying that it's like $800 a night for like a roach motel.
Huh. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's too nuts.
So I was just telling the guys, it's like, you know what? Why don't I show up on like a super slow time, and then we'll just hang.
Yeah. You're like, why don't you come visit me at my facility?
Oh yeah.
Be a good way to go. So okay, so that's the most extreme, largest show I could think of that you may have been to, because I know. What's the
Um,
closest one to you?
the closest show to me.
Yeah.
Uh, there's like a couple of close brag swaps, I guess, that I don't really go to.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
So
I
they're all
think,
a flight away.
yeah, pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these days, I kind of want to travel to more of like the international stuff because I had a really good experience like the Netherlands.
Mm,
Went to Bavaria. That was a really cool show.
those are cool. Have
Have
you?
you been to Bavaria?
I have not been to a vivarium show, but I have a vivarium and I do like them. So
You would have loved that
yeah.
because it was about 70% like freshwater and terrarium
Mm.
reptile stuff, and the rest of it was a pretty big exposure to reef aquarium stuff.
Oh, that'd be
And
pretty
there was a
cool.
lot of people there.
Nice.
There's a lot fewer shows in the EU,
Yep.
so the that particular show had a lot of people there. I think like 14,000.
Oh wow, it's a good turnout.
Yeah, that's a big show.
Yeah, makes some of ours feel tiny in comparison, eh?
Yeah, which is funny because like talking to the people there, they all assume that like all the US shows are like bigger,
Yeah, and here it's
and I'm
probably
like,
like 4 or 5 thousand, right? They're like, oh,
right,
fourteen
I'm like,
thousand.
you guys are 10,000 bigger than the
Yeah,
biggest show in the US.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's surprising. You totally wouldn't think it would be that big, but it's popular over there.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep, beauty. All right, then I think we'll wrap her up pretty quick here. Sorry about the slight audio issues. We'll figure it out for next time and get it
We
more
will figure it out. We're
pristine.
gonna obsess about this.
I know, I will.
I say we because I'm sure that like Dev is gonna contact me about this.
We will do some random testing before next
Yeah,
Wednesday.
troubleshoot.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it today. As always, hit that like button. You make sure you subscribe. If you need to get your coral fix, Tidal Gardens is where it's at.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Are you doing any live shows in the near future?
Actually, I am
Ooh,
on Saturday,
nice.
and I guess like the only new technology thing that I'm dealing with is I have a new internet. Finally, I've got fiber,
That will fix everything.
so I'm gonna be like trying to broadcast it in the juiciest way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Pristine, amazing uploads. Yeah, I bought a new mixer, like the newer version of my mixer off Facebook Marketplace the other day, so I installed it, and that's why it's not perfect yet. Still got to do some more tweaking. This is the first
So
proper test other than like
you said that what happened to your old mixer?
it's on the
It's
floor
right,
behind me.
but you said you reset it or something?
I did a factory reset on it.
Oh,
So that's my old one. And this is like the Roadcaster version 1. So I got the version 2 that I bought off Marketplace. But yeah, I don't know. I got to
it's
figure out
got
why there's a
gremlins.
slight echo coming in. There's something weird somewhere and I got to find it because it's going to drive me crazy.
Fine.
Oh no. Good times. Always turn up the quality, but once in a while it bites you in the butt.
Been there.
Yep, pretty much. You're like, why is this newer, better thing not perfect? But yeah, it's just tweaking. Thank you for joining me today. Always a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, and we will see you on next week's stream.